Hey guys, it's Chip. Last day at ConnectiCon. I think this is my last interview. I'm talking to Carl, the guy who developed this. Here, we'll bring it to you. Ophidian Wars. Carl and I got to play this last night, and I had a blast playing this. So why don't you tell me a little bit about Ophidian Wars, how you came up with it, and what it's about.
All right, sure. You hold the mic, yeah?
Yeah.
All right. So Ophidian Wars, it actually has a pretty long history, believe it or not. This game's only been out for about a month, but the origins date back a decade ago when a team built a game called Ophidian 2350, which was actually a CCG. Had a really cool mechanic called the flow that everyone loved. The game never really had time to shine. Now that I'm older, wiser, have a kid and a family, I finally had the resources to bring the flow back, and that's what you see here in the game today. Hey, now
You're famous.
Yeah. Awesome.
Okay, so the flow is back.
Flow is back.
And so what is Ophidian Wars?
Ophidian Wars is, in a nutshell, is sci-fan gladiator combat. So it's a card-based game. It's you buy a single deck to play. You customize your team. You customize your gear. You customize your training and your maneuvers, and you go and face off either free-for-all style, typically 1 versus 1, or a 2v2 format. So it's a sci-fan gladiator combat game in a nutshell.
Okay, so this can be more than 2-player game. You can go 3 or 4-player if you want it.
I've been challenged today to a 2-on-2, and if we have time, we'll do it. So.
Oh, all right. Now, the difference between the original Ophidian game and this one is one deck.
Correct.
There's no buying foil packs and special editions. Everything you need for one player is in the deck.
That's right, and I think that's general consensus. The big change was to go from a CCG collectible format and make a self-contained game. And I had to make some changes, some pretty big changes to the overarching 2350 format to get there. But it was really important that I did. So it's a single deck, and yeah, within that deck you still have customization, but you only need one deck to play.
So how many cards come in a standard deck?
Yeah. So it's 69 cards per deck. 15 of those are gladiators, 18 are your gear, your arsenal items, and then the rest, 36 are maneuvers or training.
And when you build your deck that you're going to play in the game, how many of those cards do you actually use?
Yeah, you end up using 40 total, and the most customization right now is with your gladiator team, and that's really where the theme of your deck is how you build your team. So 15 gladiators, you need to pick 5. You can also do a draft style format where you pool the gladiators and each person takes turns picking their favorites. So most of the customization comes around your team, which is really important. That's where all the synergy comes into play. And then there is some customization among your gear, and then you can narrow down, and if you're a really advanced player, you want to thin out your maneuvers deck as best as you can to 25.
Okay. Cool. And like we said, it's 5v5. I don't know if you can kind of pan into some of the artwork. Who did the artwork for the game?
Yeah, so we did. Microphone. We redid the artwork for all of the gladiators. Being the showcase of the game, I really wanted to update the art. I found some really great artists out there that redid all the gladiator art for us. And you'll see on the arsenal cards, if you can check that out, what we use here are actually 3D renders, and there's a reason for that, a secondary reason. One, I think it looks cool. It's a good way to differentiate. And then you can see they actually match up with 3D printed minis, which are just for fun, totally optional, but I have a full mini store where you can buy all the gladiators and the arsenal items as well. Totally optional for fun, if you like that stuff.
Oh, joy. You just yeah, I told you I have that OCD problem, right? You know? Okay, so it's 5v5. Position counts in this game that you have, we kind of turned them the wrong way here, but usually they're like this is these are your forefront guys, these are your support guys, this is the flank guy who can come around back and get the guys in the back row. You have gear, you have maneuvers. Now, the big thing about the game that's different than a lot of card battle games is the way turns work. Tell me about flow.
Yeah, so the big thing, bringing flow back, again, one of my main motives here. Flow is a new sort of way you have to think about turns. Now, some of it's semantics, there's no doubt about that. You still have a turn, but there's no phases within the turns. It's not like you get your turn, you have your draw phase, attack phase, whatever. The phase is totally replaced by the flow. Every action in the game that you take is either positive or negative. So you have to strategically determine how and when you play your cards to keep them positive, because if it's positive, you maintain the flow, which just means you keep your turn.
You can change moves together.
And as an example, I just got done playing a woman who strung together the most ridiculous 12-play combo and just destroyed me to the point where I literally shook her hand and forfeit because that's how bad it was. So it's a combo heavy, and that's what it's intended to be. That's what the flow is if you can figure out the right way to chain together positive actions, keep the flow, you can have a lot of fun.
And then usually flow ends with an attack, which is considered a negative action.
So attacking is negative in this game, which is one adjustment I made, and that just seems to work better. So early strategy would be do as much as you can before you're in attacking mode. However, there's plenty of ways that you can flip that on its head when you get more in depth in the strategy. Sometimes that's not always the best thing to do.
So in-game plays what? Probably in a half hour or so tops?
Yeah, so I have some experienced players, a lot of my beta testers that still play. We can smoke through a game in 20 to 30 minutes. New players, like today when I'm hanging out with new people, it's taking more like 40, but a lot of that's like card reading. You need to understand each card in this deck is totally unique. So that's good in some ways because it adds a lot of different cards, but in other ways I find people are still learning each card and reading the text, so it takes some time.
Well, that's because the text on your cards is actually relevant. It's not filler, it's not fluff. It's you actually need to understand how the card works, especially within the flow system, and how it relates to your various gladiators. Because we played last night, and you were talking. I'm just trying to read all the cards there.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, and built into the theme of the game, we have a lot of other sub mechanics like raging gladiators and being the underdog and being the crowd favorite, and you need to understand those things because that plays into the flow, which is the core strategy. Sometimes it'll be positive if you're the crowd favorite. Sometimes it'll be positive if it's a raging gladiator that you're using. So yeah, you need to spend the time to sort of learn the big mechanic, the flow, and then understanding the subs like raging and crowd favorite.
And yes, there's raging. There's also cheer.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things you're balancing all at the same time with how many moves you can make. You're a certain number of moves. So, all right. So, how much is the game, and where can people get it?
Right now, a single deck can be bought online on the Game Crafter. I have it listed at $18 right now. And when I go to conventions, I'm sort of in that middle ground phase where right now I'm selling it at conventions and local game shops that I happen to be near, and they're selling it for $15. So you can get it online, you can get it at conventions, and then I'm still exploring my options at this point.
Cool, man. Any plans for expand? I know it just came out, and you're still navigating the treacherous waters, but any plans for expansions and additional add-ons?
As the designer, I'm itching for an expansion, but I'm definitely taking my time with it. One, because it needs to be tested thoroughly, like any good expansion, and the feedback I'm getting right now is saying we want more cards, and that's because I have a handful of experienced players that are just craving more. But I'm going to take it slow. The expansion's planned loosely for the fall, but I also, like I said, I have to kind of see where it takes me, and I'm feeling it out a little bit. Yeah.
All right, man. Thanks. I had fun playing the game, and look forward to playing it some more.
Awesome.
I bought a deck myself.
Thank you. That's so cool. I love it.
All right. Thanks.